3, 2 и тоа на silent 1, ме сваќаш. Одиме во живо, малку порано, Комкаст 22, така? 22 сме сега. Станавме малку посериозни од минатата недела, почнавме и аудио да го објавуваме Комкастот оригинално каде што таму му припаѓа во својот дом на комуникации.нет.
За да може да си го слушаат кога џогираат.
За да може да си го слушаат кога џогираат и една многу битна работа која што нашиот драг пријател Зуберот, кој што се уште не се наканал да не биде гостин.
Али ни е верен гледач.
Подкастов, ни е верен гледач, рече да можам на локт скрин, на заклучен екран да можам да ве слушам. Тоа е проблемот, пошто на YouTube апликацијата не можеш на заклучен екран да не слушаш, односно
Може преку веб ако се уклучи.
Па да, ама ако си во движење и слично, не може. Како и да е, тоа не е тема на денешниот разговор. Now something completely different. Ке се префрлиме на англиски, кој не може да разбере, нека се земе преведувач. Нас не... Тука е сега, не можеме симултано да преведуваме, можеби YouTube ке...
Вајде од радиодифузија нема да се јава дека немаме превод.
Па јас се надам дека YouTube ке го детектира нашиот лош акцент и дека ке стави автоматски титли до тоа. However, switching now to English, we have a guest.
Today we are fortunate to have the co-founder of Startup Weekend, one of the most important startup events in the world. So here's Franck.
Franck,
welcome.
Thank you.
We can start a bit. You can tell us about yourself. How did the Startup Weekend venture started, and things like that?
Sure. So everything started in 2007, late 2007, with one guy named Andrew Hyde, based in Colorado. So you have to imagine a town surrounded by mountains and things like that. And he worked with, back in the days, the early days of a company named Techstars. We'll talk about it maybe a little bit after. This event where 100 people will be working on one idea. And it naturally evolved towards something that we now know for Startup Weekend, but the thing is at that time it was set up as a for-profit, and the idea was to split equity and things like that. So a couple of years after, fast forward, 2009, my two co-founders, Mark and Clint, went on a road trip. I've been to Startup Weekend before, had all these ideas to develop it. And again, we're running, I think, at that time in an issue, which is the community was hard to build. People would do Startup Weekend and then they would do their own version of it. Because why would you share this thing with other people, right? And so we took it from we acquired it from Andrew at that time, and we shifted it to a non-profit, and it already scaled at that time. I think it was like maybe 20-25 events around the world, so it was already a beginning of a success. And then we scaled it, a couple of years after, to more than 1,000 events today in 140 countries.
Would you say that the biggest decision, to be able to scale was the decision to make it non-profit because no one, was didn't have any problem to use the brand?
So the funny thing is and again I will explain that now we're for-profit again.
Okay.
We sold it to Techstars.
Okay.
So it's not, we didn't think about it as like, okay, let's be a non-profit, let's be a for-profit. It's just what makes sense as a business model. And the non-profit makes sense at the early days, so people know that you're doing that for a community, not for yourself. But then,
it has some altruistic mission, helping the startup community and...
Exactly, like what you want is, you could be, do you want something that has a huge impact and where you just, have a little part of responsibility in that, or do you want to be the king of something where you're alone? And it's always better to be part of a story that has an impact, that involves other people, and so it was a no-brainer to evolve towards that. But then after that, a couple of years after, if you wish, you also reach the limits when you're non-profit. And if you want to sustain it, you need to raise money, and if you want to raise money, you need to be influenced by an organization that tells you what to do, so you reach another ceiling, and then you need to pass that ceiling, and so that's why we teamed up with Techstars. And and now I stepped out after the acquisition, because you don't want to have any conflict of interest when you do these kind of things. And I'm launching a new venture. It's called Recorp, and I'm working at it in New York. So I'm back to the roots, starting a business again, and it's exciting.
Can you tell us what's your new venture about?
Don't know yet. I know the thing. We'll talk about it, I think. But a startup, by definition, is something you search. You don't want to be in a startup.
Nice
you're searching for something, and once you search for it, then you have a business, and that's great. So I'm in the startup phase, but I've got big hypothesis, and the hypothesis is just, in the past 6-7 years, the startup ecosystem has consolidated, like tons of things that didn't exist today to help entrepreneurs to grow. But what happened to an industry where more than 95% of the people will transition? And so I'm working on the recycling side of it now, which is like, why keep trying to create new people when we already have these existing great people? Part of the thing I'm saying, and people are not aware of that, is if you can create a business that makes more than $1 million, it's harder to do that than having an MBA from Harvard Business School. That's how hard it is, and it's not being recognized. And on the other end of the spectrum, you've got big companies that has way more capital than what the venture community has, but they have a hard time being more innovative. And so trying to figure out like how do we solve this equation and bringing these entrepreneurs with these crazy entrepreneurs who are willing to take risk within an organization to create great things. So.
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, there are a lot of companies and startups that actually making, let's say, $1 million a year, which is really, really hard.
Yes.
But they're not recognized as, that it's not writing about them in TechCrunch, in The Verge.
Of course not.
I mean, you just briefly, so to say, in a couple of sentences, took us from the beginning till the present day.
Let's fast forward.
Yeah, that's okay. But I would be more curious to understand what it takes for a startup ecosystem, to function, to work. Because we will talk about Macedonia afterwards. You've been spending days here.
I think first of all you have to define what's a startup ecosystem. So you have to define what's a startup, and I think there's two definitions. One is the San Francisco Silicon Valley definition, which would be Steve Blank, who's a professor at Stanford and a famous entrepreneurs define, and he says it's a group of people searching for a stable and scalable business model. So you have this notion of scale, of high growth. Then there's the economic definition of a startup, which would be something like a young business that is less than 5 years old and that somehow make money. And you have these two definitions. So if you take a startup ecosystem in the Silicon Valley sense, like you want capital, you want venture capitalists, you want all these things, but you also need a market that has more than 100 million people. You're not going to do a high growth company with a smaller market. But if you do a startup, the same, like that just create 5, 6, 10 jobs, then you don't need the same ingredients. So first of all, you want to know what you're talking about. Now, if you talk about again, like the generality that include both systems, both the startup as high growth and both the startup as just business. What you need is something that's led by entrepreneurs. Brad Feld talked about it very well, but he talks about feeders and leaders. The feeders are the one who feed the ecosystem, and they're supposed to help it. Business angels, governmental organizations, things like that. But the leaders who lead that thing, and people who lead it, what you need is you need leaders. And you need these leaders to be entrepreneurs, and you need them to commit for at least 20 years. It's a long journey. And you want these people that that can lead that. That's very important.
So basically the leaders, you say, that are supposed to be part of the startups, part of the entrepreneurs, not part of the angels, investors, VCs and stuff like that.
They can be angel themselves. Like, so sometimes you have double roles, right? But the thing you want is, again, you want to be led by people who have been creating businesses. For two reasons. One, because they have experience. And again, because you look at ecosystem that works. Look at San Francisco. Now it's 5, 6, 7, 10, like maybe 6 generation of entrepreneurs who have been successful and want to give back to the community. And so if you're someone who's successful, you have to give back. You have some specific knowledge that only you can teach and only you can help with.
Sorry, Darko. Do you think that those leaders have to have some huge success on their own so they can drive the whole system behind them? Because in Macedonia, there's a talk that we need this huge, let's say, exit that can show to the community that it's possible to make it from here.
So not necessarily. Again, anyone who's an entrepreneur can be a leader at different level through the entrepreneur journey. You could just have created a business and help someone who never created a business to just understand how it is to start. You can work with someone who has been successful at scaling a company from 10 to 1,000 people, and this person can help someone who has a company of 10 people to go to 100. So it's kind of a chain where you need all of these different level of competences
that's
acquired by experience.
That's why
I always admire more on the philosophy, scale the customers from 10 to 1,000, not the people in the company from 10 to 1,000, because it doesn't relate in many cases.
Oh, totally.
But actually, the best definition I love about startup is that there are no rules in startups.
Totally.
I mean, maybe there's something that works for several startups or for one startup, it doesn't work for another one.
I like to say a joke about that. There is rules. I can tell you the 4 ways to build a successful business based on observation. And so number one is you need a product.
Of course.
Number two is you need a customer who's going to buy that product.
Yes.
Number three, you need to make a profit of selling the product to the customer.
Yeah.
And number four, you need to sell as much as possible that product.
So let's summarize.
But now,
everything.
how to do that is like
Make
me
a
telling
product
you.
that people
It's like
love.
me telling you how to be successful at playing soccer, and I'm gonna be. It's easy. You need to score more goals than the person in front of you.
Everyone knows that.
And so there is rules, but it's not helpful.
I mean, we can agree on one. Make something that people love.
Yeah, I think at least
And buy.
exactly. I mean, like it's at least, and also maybe something that you love too. You know, it's like so. Like
I mean,
a lot of people become entrepreneurs because they didn't like their life as employees.
Yeah.
And I think there's a sense of freedom that empower people to do things they enjoy.
How important was for Startup Weekend, especially in the beginnings, to have great startups starting from Startup Weekend and becoming huge afterwards?
Not important at all. Never was.
Not important at all.
No, because we're not in a business of being an accelerator or an incubator.
No, as a promotional tool and stuff like that.
Neither. But it's funny that people always ask us, what's the most successful startup from Startup Weekend? And we're like, hey guys, we're just doing a 2-day event where we take people who never did a business.
Yeah.
And after 2 days, maybe some of them will do a business. That's already amazing for 2 days. Like, think about it.
Yeah.
2 days of your life. And you have one chance out of 10 if you go to these 2 days to end up having a business a year after. Like, to us, that's already huge. And the same, you have other statistics people don't talk about. You have 90% of chance if you go to a Startup Weekend to stay in touch with someone you're going to meet there. You're going to meet new friends. Like,
of course.
And then it's really hard to track because maybe you're not going to do the startup that you have right now, but maybe you're going to join a startup. Maybe you're looking for a normal job, but maybe you're going to end up working for a startup because of that. So there's a lot of different impact. Now, if you look at how important it is important for fundraising, it's important for everything. And I think if you look at Startup Weekend and you can go online at angel.co, somehow we listed into incubators or accelerators, and I think we're number 6 in the world.
Okay.
In terms of valuation. But again, it's not the intention. But what's good is to observe it. Means we didn't break the natural path of success. What would be bad is if we had all these things and nothing on the other side. But to me, it's a volume game. So maybe 10 years from now, there's going to be a Google coming out of Startup Weekend. It doesn't matter. All it means is at least we didn't destroy it. We didn't destroy the chance of that happening. And that means it works. That means it's neutral enough. To just be a platform. But if you go there, you have a great weekend, and you realize you don't want to be an entrepreneur. To me, it's a great outcome too. You didn't sell your house. You didn't.
Of course.
You didn't quit everything and do that. So
sure.
And for a lot of people, it's a completely new experience.
Oh, yeah.
Actually.
Yeah.
So let me rephrase Darko question.
What is Startup Weekend?
What is the most, let's say, startup that came of Startup Weekend that you're most proud of?
Again, I don't have a...
You don't have like some favorite...
No, like I'm gonna play my political card, but I mean, like, it's like saying like, who's your favorite kid?
I love them all.
The craziest kid. But which one is the craziest kid? The craziest startup.
And again, the startups doesn't belong to us. The craziest people,
of course.
The craziest people are the entrepreneurs who launch it,
and
the organizers that volunteer like to organize these events. The facilitator, like us, we're just we're just there to help, but maybe to frame it, to explain people what the Startup Weekend is. And sure, you can go to Startup Weekend, you can go to other events. Like there's plenty of things now. Like just go outside, connect to your community, experience all these things. But the Startup Weekend itself is Friday. You come, you pitch an idea. If people like it, they join you. If people don't like it, you join another idea. If you don't have an idea, you sit and select the one you like. You form a team Friday night, and then Saturday, Sunday, you build a product, you start to build a startup, and then you present it to people who themselves have done that before, to investors, and that's it. There's other similar format, there's hackathon, there's tons of things that do similar things. What really Startup Weekend is a community.
Okay.
So if you go to a Startup Weekend, you're connected with like people again in 143 countries today. Like you're connected with people in Iran, you're connected with people now in Cuba, you're connected with people like, and that's what I think the power of Startup Weekend is. You can travel around the world and go anywhere and meet these people.
Is it the biggest community startup event in the world now, or?
I think so. Like again, we don't wake up in the morning like running research study about what it is, but pretty confidently, I'm pretty confident it is. I think we passed like 320,000 people, I think, and 8,000 volunteers.
So now Techstars acquired Startup Weekend. So how is that going? I mean,
Very well. My co-founder, Mark, is now like still in charge of it. And if you look at it, nothing changed. We're still Startup Weekend.
So they left you pretty much to...
The reason we did this thing is because we know them. Again, Startup Weekend indirectly came from Techstars. So coming back to it is a good story. It's like the kid coming back home and say, hey guys, and they get it. Again, like David Cohen, Brad Feld, they developed themselves a community. They theorized how to develop ecosystem in a city that had zero ecosystem. It's called Boulder. And now Boulder, I think, is like the third or fourth startup community in North America. And these guys know something important. They know that you don't want to capture everything. You don't want to have a pyramidal system where it's like Techstars on the top, and Startup Weekend, feeding startup to Techstars. They just know that if you help people, like, good things will happen. Actually, they're already successful enough that they don't, really care about that. Like, they sincerely want to help. And to me, that's also a chance to maybe a couple of years from now, scale more Startup Weekend. But the community has up and downs. I think we're on the verge of a bubble. What's important for us is to be sure that Startup Weekend will still be there 100 years from now. You'll not think about it. You're not going to go back to the past, where just 10 years ago the way you would do a business was to go to a chamber of commerce, to do a business plan, get a lawyer. Like, we're never going to go back to that again. So I'm very confident that one form or another of Startup Weekend will be there.
That's cool.
Do you see a pattern, for example, how the startup communities that were coming, people that were coming on Startup Weekend, for example, in the States, they have created some sort of pattern in the several years, how they develop. Do you see the same pattern or same characteristics in different areas, in different markets, for example, I don't know, Europe, Balkans, Asia, whatever?
What do you mean by patterns?
That a development of a startup community should, follow some stages.
Okay.
Are they the same stages, for different markets, or it's completely different in every?
No, the great thing about entrepreneurs and the entrepreneurial community is it's the same people. You can go here, you can go in San Francisco, you can go in Paris, you can go in Côte d'Ivoire, you can go even in China in some form, I guess. But like, entrepreneurs are the same.
Okay.
It's like there's no difference, and as a result, I think the entrepreneurial community obey to kind of the same rules. All of them have different people, but I mean, at the end, you have the same. You see the same thing. Then at different level of development. If you go to San Francisco, I guess today there must be 100 events going on this week about startup, and if you go to other places, one or two. But I think it kind of follows the same patterns indeed.
And what about, what is the reason that you are here in Macedonia? Let's switch, switch it slowly there.
It's okay. As I said, like, now I'm really working into connecting the best entrepreneurs in the world with big companies. And as I do that, I'm always, once in a while, I like to reconnect to nascent community, to look at where are the best people, like where are they. So it's very interesting for me from an entrepreneurial perspective to see, who's here. The reason I'm here also is to help with SECO, which is part of, I think, a Swiss program, to help with economic development.
Okay.
And I'm no expert in economic development, but I mean, if you look at what brings an economy, it's new startups, new business. In America, there was a statistics that said that almost 99% of the net job creation in America was caused by new business. And the reason is because the one people business were there, like, not really creating any job. The big companies, what they do is they either gonna reduce their cost, and so therefore firing people, or at best stabilize things. So the only thing that creates new growth, that creates economic growth, is to create more business. And the people who do that are the entrepreneurs. And so we're working here maybe in like the grassroots side of that economic development part, and just helping the great organizations that are here, that you're part of too. I mean, again, like you're part of promoting that, and just to connect people, share. I hate the term best practices, but at least like just to be, hey guys, like, have you heard about this thing? And just slowly connecting people. But I'm in a search of great entrepreneurs who are here, and to be sure everybody's connected, and to search for these leaders that can help. So if anyone is watching us, like, and who wants to, who has done a business of some sort, like, reach out to you, and
we can have the contact in the.
So what is your first impression? Are we connected? As entrepreneurs in the market.
What's like the Macedonian startup ecosystem?
First of all, I don't know, because I've just been here for having 3 days.
3 days, yeah.
So that would be a little bit presumptuous of
But you know how they say, first impressions don't lie.
That's true. So I mean, I see a couple of things, right? Number one is the cost of living here compared to America, for example, is lower. So I see a potential, and I'd like, if anyone is watching us who's not from Macedonia, you should come here. Instead of burning money in San Francisco, you could last a year here to launch your business. It's amazing. There's a great internet connection. All you need to do business today is a great internet connection, as much cash flow as you can to do something, and a computer. And there's all of the ingredients are here in Macedonia. Now what you need also is talent. And so I see a couple of things. So I think a lot of people are leaving Macedonia to work abroad because they're attracted by higher wages. And that's natural, it happened in another country. What's important is not to lose the connection and to use that as a leverage. Israel is very good at doing that. You have everybody leaving Israel, but Israel is doing great because, so again, you want people maybe outside, but you don't want to lose the connection.
And who is responsible for that? Who should think about it? Is it,
the entrepreneurs, they have to figure it out by themselves. It's the top-down things never works. What's good is to have a government or to have other organization to help, to assist, to feed, but it's your responsibility as leader of a country to develop your own economy. And the leaders of the economic of this country are the entrepreneurs. And if they decide to leave, that's great. But they need to give back, or they need to stay connected. Maybe they can help other people and brings more capital towards the country. If you stay here and you want to, so again, I think it's a nascent ecosystem, I guess all over the Balkans. I think the country is small. If I remember, it's 2 million people. So again, you don't want to be alone. You want to connect to other people. So it's good to have these connectors. So again, I think there's all the ingredient for success. I think it's the beginning of it. I don't think it's connected yet to where it can be. And I think we need also more entrepreneurs, more startups here. There's a lot of structure to support them. But I think we need now to go to the next step and to be now we have the whole structure to support all these great things.
We have funds, we can have accelerators, we have co-working spaces.
Everything
is set up.
So again, if you're a foreigner, come here. There's great structure to help you, and to hang out with, and then you can teach other people and share your knowledge. And if you're a student, if you're an entrepreneur, and you're here, reach out to these guys. And again, there's so many things to help you. It's really there's so much potential, and I think we didn't tap. I didn't see the potential, being. I think we're I think 2 or 3 years from now, I'll be back, and it's gonna be very, very different. It's gonna be awesome.
The first thing that usually people think, when starting from here, is that you can't grow a startup here. You don't know the market. I can't grow up a service in the States from here. I don't know the people there. I don't go in the same circles. I'm not in Silicon Valley. Visiting.
I don't have the connections.
I don't have the connections.
The money.
These are not entrepreneurs, or maybe not yet. It's the same. We say, I'm too old, I'm too young, I'm not sure if I can, and I want to do that. I call that entrepreneurs in denial, which is you say you're an entrepreneur, but you're not going to be because you have this list of excuses not to bid.
Yes.
No, you can grow a business from anywhere. These are excuses.
So basically, you have seen this,
look at Skype. Look at, look at all these great success. These are excuses. Of course, you can build a business from anywhere today, and that's why it's amazing. You can sit right now, incorporate your company, put a website online, launch look at things like. Do you remember this video game on iPhone, Flappy Bird?
Okay.
The guy did that from an apartment in Vietnam. Which is even less developed or similarly developed, I guess, as an economy. These are excuses. You can.
Vietnam is our now.
I love Vietnam. That's why I took Vietnam. I've been there, but
hello to Vietnamese.
But in terms of cost of living, it's similar. So that's why I'm all these things are excuses. But if you want to find excuse, I can give you tons of them. First of all, don't be an entrepreneur. You don't do that to be rich.
And have you heard many excuses in these 3 days in Macedonia?
Not more than anywhere else.
Not more than anywhere
the
else.
usual.
No. Yeah, the usual suspect. This, again, no difference.
Okay.
No difference. Big potential. The beginning of it. Now we just need more entrepreneurs to kind of appear and be hey, come here. So we need to celebrate you. You need to celebrate these great people locally, which is what you do. So again. Thank you for doing that, because that's helpful.
To broaden the discussion now, we've come to topic, being an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, are you born entrepreneur? You raised entrepreneur.
You learn.
You learn. Because it's a key element in this area. I know.
Again, that's great because that's an easy one to answer. There's actually studies about it. So no, you're not born an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Yes, you can learn about it.
Mm-hmm.
Go to a startup weekend or any other events, but you're influenced by people, and that there's not study, but I've got a hypothesis about it. What we know is that if your parents were entrepreneurs, you're more likely statistically to be an entrepreneur. What we know,
environment is
what we know is if you were an average kid at school, this one I love, you actually have more chance to be an entrepreneur than if you were the first one at school.
Okay.
Because the first one usually don't collaborate more much. You learn
They
know to be the best by themselves. While the people in the middle tend to collaborate more. If you are good at sports, you're more likely to be an entrepreneur.
team.
But the one I believe in is you're more likely to be an entrepreneur if you're surrounded with entrepreneurs in general. And so that's why it's important to have this density. It's important to have these entrepreneurs to all meet and bump into each other. That will create more new
friction.
More new entrepreneurs. And
That's a good point.
So, but everybody can be an entrepreneur.
So we shouldn't thrash the fact that we have nowadays in Macedonia more events than startups themselves.
No, it's good. You have a pipe. Everything's ready. So it's like when you build a great city, you're going to put like big roads and everything. And now you just need a bigger population, but people just need to advertise it.
We are prepared for next Facebook or Google, huh?
Maybe. You never know. Maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and in your experience, have you noticed in this short time that you're here that things that maybe we are doing wrong?
No, again, I mean, I cannot tell. No one knows how to do entrepreneurship. You said it yourself, and you're right.
No, I mean, when you talk to other entrepreneurs, are there some pattern of things that they were?
There's no wrong or right. Again, whoever is right or wrong will be decided by customers.
Another question, maybe. Probably you've got that opportunity to learn that there are plenty of tech companies in Macedonia who are outsourcing. Just pure outsourcing, which is a case in many different markets.
Great business.
Of course. The thing is that usually those are young entrepreneurs who say, yes, we're going to build product, and they say, okay, we don't have enough money to build a product, so we're going to start working as an outsource, and then it's very difficult to get out of that loop, just to break it and say, okay, I'm going to do that now. Do you have any experience, advice to see that changing how to change that? Because personally I know several companies that started let's do this for a part of time and then we will continue doing our own stuff,
but they never
happened
to their product.
But you see, it's funny because to me, first of all, it happens in the United States too. There's a lot of people who are doing a company, it doesn't work, end up doing consulting or doing these things. But I think it's great. I think again, you have a business, you develop your business, you hired hundreds of people.
Okay.
You work on your strength and you have customers. What's wrong with that?
No, I'm not saying
but
that
you're
it's
not
wrong.
developing your product, your idea, your passion. You're developing other people's products.
Yeah, I know. But again, you have a business, and
from that perspective,
and the person who leads it is an entrepreneur.
Of course.
Now, if you say people are bored about it, okay, well, that's another subject. Happiness and entrepreneurship. But you see what I mean? It's I would never look down on any business.
A
restaurant, or anything, it's great. Now, if you have people there who are I'm an employee, or I want to do something else, then the advice is simple. You put some capital on the side. Yeah. Maybe you find some support from other people. You work a little bit late at night, and you start your other things. And then, if you have traction, if you have customers, and if again, it's the same.
At the end of the day, he has to decide. Even he's built a company, so let's have a little bit part of our company.
He should be recognized, or she should be recognized as someone that has done something that is still very difficult.
No one is trying to say bad words about this. Of course, they're successful businessmen. They run successful companies, big companies. That's true. The part of the comments why I want to talk about it is because there's a kind of sense that when you work for outsource, you just a little bit more narrow-minded, a little bit more preoccupied with some particular technical stuff. You don't think about developing business products, services, to the end customer, and doing that, working that, kind of, you're an entrepreneur, but you don't have, the whole package, to build your own product and to do it by yourself.
I think it's interesting. I think people build this ideal persona of a hero entrepreneur. But you would go to Google, you go to Facebook, you go to Twitter. I would assume you consider like being successful startup, right?
More or less.
More or less.
We are informed, we read stuff, not for Twitter.
So think about it. Like, what do they do? Do they develop things? Yes. I mean, like, do they have customers? Yes. But I mean, again, like, there's plenty of people I know at Google who are not happy there because they're like, I wake up every day and I have to do this thing. And like, what you describe is funny. It's like, I think, again, what you describe is a startup, and what you're telling me is like, to me, and that's why I have a hard time understanding it. It's like if you were be like, yeah, and there's all these people doing these iPhone apps, and and you just do these iPhone apps for people, and like, what about doing something real, like electronic stuff? And it's the same. It's like, if you want to do something, if you're not happy doing that, then build your own business and do something else. Yeah. If you're happy doing it, but you see what I mean? It's like, I don't see differences.
Okay.
What I think though is, what you say is, you see people who have launched business, who have failed, and then who are like, what can I do to still make a living and not getting a job? And who ended up taking their skills and building this business, not out of an original idea, but out of necessity. Mm-hmm. And then they ended up being successful at that. And so therefore, there might be a sense of, oh, it's not what I do. I can tell you another thing. Never happen like that you will have an idea, execute on it, and succeed at that idea. There's always something weird that happens in the middle.
Of course.
But then you can still build your own culture. You can still do the things you love. You can still make it differently from other people and still have your own. So my recommendation to these people would be, build a culture that goes back to the roots of what was your original passion. Mm-hmm. So select customers you only love. Maybe only build products that you're passionate about. Yeah. Maybe send some of your employees to launch. So you see, there's always ways to do it. Go back to your passion. Don't forget about that.
Exactly.
We're not.
You're the leader. No, I know. I understand. But if I understand it correctly, then my advice is to be like, realize you're still in charge. Like, and that's true sometimes. But you have to choose who are your customers. You have to know, and that's part of scaling. And it's a very difficult step. It's to build your culture. Mm-hmm. Where are you going? Who do you want to be as a company? And if you don't do that, you might end up not being happy and not knowing who you are and what you do. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just to add one note. That was my point in the beginning about these guys. Mm-hmm. I mean, they managed to build a successful company, a successful business. But in the meantime, I think that we should encourage them to go back and build their own stuff. Mm-hmm. Not to let's say just focus on the business. I mean, the business they managed to build it. It's okay. So you're a successful entrepreneur.
I would never go and tell them what to do. You see, man, it's like, you're an entrepreneur. Like,
but if one idea failed, try another one. Try a third one.
It's hard. It's easy to sit here and say, hey, do this and do that. But I mean, the reality of it is, it's psychologically very difficult when you face failure. A lot of people would say, like, celebrate failure. You have to do this thing. It's easy to say.
It's a mantra now. Celebrate failure.
But the reality of it.
I'm ending up describing failure and talking about it because no one else dares to.
And again, that's why you need these entrepreneurs. Like, to me, they're like the economic heroes.
Okay.
And again,
we should encourage them. That's my point.
Sure. We should celebrate them. So again, like, if you do any kind of business, be proud of it.
Yeah.
If you have difficulty
and
you're like,
something, be proud.
So to your point, when you say, if someone is in that situation and being like, I'm not happy doing this business I did, then reach out to someone who have been through that and who has been successfully exiting it. So find yourself a mentor, find yourself someone in a community who's maybe a step ahead of you, and then ask him for help, like maybe build a board or people like that, and being like, okay, I'm here. How do I go to the next step?
No one said that they're not happy.
I know.
No one said that they're not happy. They're pretty happy. They make a lot of money.
Okay.
The business is growing, so they're happy.
So why do you want to change them?
No, I don't want to change them.
Okay.
I just, in order to develop the startup culture, to develop, the full spectrum of being able as a market to develop
But
full
again,
product service.
I understand what you said. And so my answer to that will be, it will happen. If you have more and more people who work more and more with this company here, and all of them are developers, at one point these guys will leave and create their own startup.
Okay.
So it takes time. You have to be patient.
Okay.
But think about it. Think if you had 0 people working for 0 development, for 0 company outside, your chances will be lower.
Sure.
Now, if people work there, and it's even better if they're frustrated by it, because then they will leave. They will leave even more, and then they will create even more business. So just be patient. This is good. You want great developers. You want great designers. People who work abroad. Like this is good. Economic activity is going to lead to more entrepreneurship. You just have to be patient. So then my answer will be just be patient. It's going to come.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool.
Need some time.
I don't know. To sum it up, let's get away a bit again from Macedonia.
Sure.
Can you? It's always been my personal, topic of interest, comparing the startup culture in Europe versus the States.
Yeah.
The approach, build them and they will come, versus the approach, make money from day one, and stuff like that. How do you see that?
Again, I don't think there's different approach to entrepreneurship.
Okay.
I think entrepreneurship is global.
No. Business models and stuff like that.
But I think if you compare the US to Europe, what you're comparing is government policy. Okay. Because that's the difference. That's a country. To me, again, entrepreneurs, I don't think see borders.
Okay.
You can create your business and be like, I'm going to sell my thing everywhere. When you talk about country, you talk about a government, you talk about rules, you talk about laws. And so when you compare Europe to America, I see a couple of things. I see the market, for example, is another one. So Europe has a big market as itself, but it's a fragmented market where everybody speaks a different language. Yeah. While America or England, English, target is a pretty good target. So number one is the potential is higher in terms of you write one thing in one language and you can impact 300, 400 million people. While in Europe, you have to do it in French, and to do it in Spanish, then in German, then in Macedonian, then in so it's more difficult. First of all, number two is capital is clearly more in the United States. I think I don't know what it is, but something around 90% of the VC capital, the venture capital, is in the US, and 70% of that is in San Francisco. Yeah. And the reason you have that capital is because the economic structure of America is different from Europe mostly. Europe, for example, in France, which I know, has a retirement structure that is based on the people who work pay taxes to pay the retirement of the people who are retired. When in the US is you work and you invest your money on the stock exchange in a way indirectly, which flows down to it. So there's structural differences. And then there's political differences, where how easy is it to hire people, or easy is it to set up a company,
and to fire,
or easy is it to easy is it to let people go is very important, and all these things plays at the advantage or disadvantage of our countries. I think Estonia is a great example of a modern country. I saw they have leaders at the government level that are intentionally really leading towards startups, and that I think it seems like it has a great effect. So you have tons of programs. You can incorporate now your company online from outside the country, which is great for people who left, and even have your bank account set up, all the things so you can be sitting anywhere around the world and running your company in Estonia even though you're not there. They have this visa. They try to attract other people. So I think at the end of the day, the big difference is not at the entrepreneurs. It's going to be around the political leaders, and do they have a vision that is towards innovation and towards entrepreneurship and startup, and are they putting action towards usually these words, and it's so you need also this kind of leadership. But the big difference between Europe and America, I think, is again towards the fact that Europe is more protective, which is a good thing. Again, not judging systems. Europe is more protective. America is less, and as a result, America makes better startup. Okay.
And do you think maybe the Europeans are more risk averse than the US entrepreneurs?
No. The same. I've got studies about that, which is very funny. One of them few people know is that there's 6 different studies that shows that entrepreneurs are no more likely to take more risk than anyone else. So
I have read differently that.
so it's very interesting. Entrepreneurs are not risk taker. If you think about it, all of us take risk. I mean, if you have a job and you hope that you're going to keep your job for the next 30 years and that you're going to be able to pay for your house, you're making a risk. You're taking a huge risk, especially in the condition now where artificial intelligence and robots might replace you. Because if you miss that bet, then you'll be in a very bad shape 30 years from now. The entrepreneurs make another kind of bet, and it's like, I'm going to put a little bit of my money, and if it works, I can have this huge outcome. So it's a risk versus reward ratio, but you have to have a vision. So if you see it, you would take the same risk. But you're like, if I fail, then I'll go back to another situation, so it's acceptable.
But okay, in the USA, the children from little are, let's say, raised in this culture of entrepreneurship, innovation.
Yeah.
I don't think that's enough happening in Europe.
So going back now to the culture, because again, I'm talking about the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur can always, again, figure out where to do that. In terms of culture, I think, yes, we definitely don't celebrate, I don't know Europe again, I'm European, you're European too, but I still think there's a lot of cultural differences.
Sure,
but it seems, at least in France, we definitely don't celebrate failure. Because as a kid,
if you fail
in France, which is a Napoleonic system, if you fail in France at school, you're not going to go to the right school, and as a result, you're never going to be a leader of anything there.
That's a big burden on.
But it's starting to shift. Again, I think technology. Ernst & Young just made an announcement recently that says that now they're not going to look at which school you've been to.
Oh yeah, I know that.
And that's also because of the entrepreneurs, because of internet. I think the system globally will. And you see it today. Like again, if you're an amazing developer here, or if you're great at anything, you know, even if you have 0 diploma, if you didn't graduate from anywhere, you might get a job at Google. You might create a great company.
Yeah. Exactly. I agree.
But it's for new technology. Now, if you're in traditional business, it's harder. But I think the technological wave unify the risk culture, and we'll little by little, like, you know, I think there's a sense of universality coming from entrepreneurs, and that kind of go with education too. And,
okay.
I know that answered the question.
So we are more than 30 minutes, I think.
I guess so. Yeah, but nevertheless.
It's a very interesting talk. 41.
Oh, okay.
No toll collection.
So Frank, thank you for coming to our show.
Thank you for having us.
It was really a great talk.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
I hope everybody will experience the startup weekend and meet the community.
A little trivia. I mean, me and that guy over there sitting were part of the first team that organized the first startup weekend in Macedonia in general, and we're very proud that it's going on still, and other people are joining. And to be honest, I mean, still I think it's the best event done.
Again, thanks to you, because like you asked me, but like, how do you feel? Can I ask him a question?
Yes, chef.
How do you feel? How do you feel? What is your favorite startup that came out of Startup Weekend Macedonia?
I know one, a Brainster.
There you go.
I'm prepared for my show.
And how do you feel about the impact you had?
Oh, I mean, I couldn't take any. I wouldn't take any credit on that. You know, basically, I would just, you know, it makes me proud just to say that we knew about Startup Weekend, that it's something there out there, that it's happening. So we were, when we started our company, we were in an incubator, and talking together with the management of the incubator, said, okay, let's do this, because this is, you know, interesting thing. So we sat together. When you read all the,
this is great. Now you see how I feel. Like it's a community thing. We can
of course. I mean, it's one thing, you know, to speak about it, and I completely agree. What you said when you answered my question previously, I would do the same, because I just did.
Good.
You know, you just want to contribute and grow up. You know, sometimes we are deliberately, you know, criticizing things just to provoke people to move forward.
It's great. You want to
stuff like that, you know.
But you should never criticize with words. You have to criticize with action, and that's what you're doing. And I hope that's what the people here will do.
Well, yeah, of course.
I mean, if you hate something, if you're frustrated about something, just build a startup and solve it.
Make it better.
We felt a couple of them. Don't worry.
That's good.
Okay, thanks again.
Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure, and
Se gledаме на интернет.
Bye. Great.
Thank you, man.
Pleasure.